My difficult mother-in-law attempted to harm me during my pregnancy to exclude me from her party. My husband supported her, so I did something unexpected. I can't believe I'm writing this, but my mother-in-law just attempted to poison me last week. Over the years, she has always thrown a lavish celebration for her birthday, and this year was no different. She organized a cowboy-themed party with all the bells and whistles. She expected everyone to show up and participate enthusiastically, so it wasn't just a casual get-together. I'm currently expecting my first child, and it hasn't been the easiest journey so far. I've been feeling completely exhausted, in part because I've been struggling with anemia during the pregnancy, so I have to be careful about how much I exert myself. I try to avoid unnecessary stress, and to be honest, I've been skipping a lot of social events lately to put my health first. Going to parties or events feels like a lot right now, especially since I need to rest more than usual. A few days before the party, my mother-in-law called my husband and made a big deal out of the fact that I had to be there. She put a lot of pressure on him, saying that I couldn't just skip this event, that she expected me to attend regardless of how exhausted I was. So even though I didn't feel like it, I felt compelled to go to maintain the peace. Later, on the day of her birthday party, I had to deal with even more stress from her making fun of me for missing it. So before we left, I told my husband Nate that if I ever felt ill or uncomfortable, I wasn't going to stay. If things got too much, I would go right home. As is often the case when you're pregnant, people start gravitating towards me, touching my belly, and talking to it in those babyish, overly sweet voices as if the baby could somehow hear and respond. He seemed to understand and completely agreed, even promising that if I wanted to leave, he would come back with me. This gave me some reassurance for the event later. A buzz of family members buzzed around me, showering me with congratulations on becoming a mother soon, which was kind but also a little overwhelming. They kept approaching me to talk about the pregnancy or offer advice about being a first-time parent. I tried to quietly leave the crowd so I could have a break, and when I eventually managed to find a quiet place to sit, I was thankful to be able to catch my breath. Fortunately, my husband's cousin Robin came over to keep me company, and since she and my husband were close growing up, we became friends after I got married. As she sat down next to me, she immediately made a joke about how surprised she was to see me at the party, considering how I've been staying home more often. She teased that if I hadn't shown up, my mother-in-law would have given her and my husband an earful for letting me get away with it. She's one of the few people who truly understands me, and she knows how much I've been avoiding social events lately, especially now that I'm pregnant. We both laughed at that because we knew. As we continued to talk and catch up on life during the pregnancy, my mother-in-law abruptly came over. She didn't sit down or join in the conversation. Instead, she just looked me up and down and then, without hesitation, told me how different I looked since the last time she saw me. It was true that she isn't shy about expressing her disappointment when things don't go as she expects, and she would have had a lot to say if I had skipped her birthday party. Her comment was unexpected, and for a moment, I wasn't sure how to react. For background, even though my mother-in-law lives in the same city as us, she doesn't often visit us at home. It's not like she lives far away, but she just doesn't seem to enjoy it. My husband and I used to go visit her fairly frequently, almost every other weekend. But ever since I became pregnant, I've had to reduce the frequency of those visits because they've been too taxing. I thought it would have been nice if she had come to visit. She never did, especially considering everything I've been going through. It had likely been 2 or 3 months since she last saw me in person, so it's only natural that I would have changed. Pregnancy has been taking its toll, and I look different now than I did a few months ago, but the way she brought it up felt a little strange. She then bluntly stated that I looked much bigger than ever, which made me feel embarrassed right away, but I tried to hide it. The mother-in-law didn't seem fazed. In fact, she scoffed almost dismissively and replied with a bit of smugness that she never put on any weight when she was pregnant with my husband. Despite my awkward laugh, I felt self-conscious and uneasy inside. Fortunately, Robin swiftly defended me, pointing to my expanding belly and firmly reminding her that I was pregnant and would undoubtedly gain weight. She then added a remark about how inactive I appeared for simply sitting around her party without interacting with the guests, adding that she had been extremely energetic during her pregnancy. Her comparison felt like a direct jab at me, as if she were suggesting that I wasn't managing pregnancy as well as she had. I pushed back, pointing out that there were obvious differences between her situation and mine. She had my husband after high school and was quite young because she had dropped out of college to become a full-time mother, whereas I'm in my late 20s to mid-30s and already have health problems, so pregnancy will affect me differently. Given the situation, it's only natural that my body needs more rest. When I brought up the differences, I could tell she didn't take it well. Her face turned red, obviously offended by my response. Sensing the tension rising, Robin immediately attempted to change the topic of conversation by complimenting the mother-in-law on how wonderful her party was, highlighting the decorations, the theme, and the work that went into planning everything. This seemed to work because the mother-in-law seized the opportunity to talk about herself right away, going on a bit of a tirade about how she had come up with such a unique idea about the theme of her party. When it came time for the cake cutting, my husband took charge of bringing out the cake for her mother-in-law. He carefully placed the cake on top, and we all gathered around to sing for her. Of course, I was relieved that the awkward conversation had been forgotten. She expressed her gratitude to her friends for helping put the party together. As I moved to stand next to my mother-in-law for the photos, people started to swarm around and compliment us both, saying things like, "Oh, you two look so beautiful together, and you could be sisters." I wasn't too keen on it because I was already feeling exhausted, but I felt obliged because my husband and father-in-law seemed insistent. Some even added, "We can't wait for the baby to arrive. It's going to be so exciting." They also made jokes about how soon the mother-in-law will become a grandmother, and I could see a slight change in her expression. There was a flicker of annoyance in her eyes, and the well-intentioned comparison to the sister seemed to irritate her. It was as though the attention, which she wanted to be on her alone, was now being divided, and she didn't appreciate that. She continued to be courteous and smile for the cameras, but I could feel the tension rising, and to be honest, I just wanted the entire photo shoot to end so I wouldn't ruin her day, especially on her special day. Later, during lunch, I was about to finish my meal when I was surrounded by some of my mother-in-law's friends in the kitchen. Her friends began chatting about how my skin looked radiant because I was pregnant and how back then my mother-in-law looked exactly like me. So I smiled and nodded politely, not participating but trying to maintain my respect. Suddenly, without warning, the mother-in-law cut off their conversation with a dismissive tone, pointing out that I had large arms and awkward-looking calves because of my pregnancy, which she claimed was never the case for her. Her words hurt, and I tried to remain calm, but her friends began to tease her by pointing out that she had gained weight and that she had lost so much hair during her pregnancy that she was nearly bald at one point. They even joked about her arms sagging, which brought back memories of those times. I could see my mother-in-law's expression change from smug satisfaction to barely disguised frustration as her friends went on. I realized that, although my mother-in-law had been trying her hardest to make me feel insecure in front of her friends, she had been the one embarrassed by the people who knew her the best. They weren't being mean-spirited, but their candid recollections were sufficient to undermine her attempt to make me feel inferior. They had known her since college, so they had first-hand knowledge of how she looked back then, and they weren't holding anything back. It felt like a small win for me, so I remained silent and let her deal with the awkward situation. Later, I politely excused myself from the group, saying that I had to use the restroom immediately, hoping that they would now leave me alone. However, when I came out of the restroom, I was shocked to see my mother-in-law waiting for me. She asked if I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to escalate the situation, so I just told her that lunch had been a little too heavy for me. At that point, she scoffed, almost as if I was surprised by how direct she was, but I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of believing she could just send me packing, so I calmly told her that I was feeling fine and that I could stay for a while. She had been waiting for an opportunity to jump without missing a beat. Maybe I should just go back home if I'm not feeling well. Her tone wasn't kind or concerned. Rather, it was dismissive, as if she was trying to push me out of the party. I politely declined again, telling her that my husband would drive me home when it was time to leave, but she countered that her son needed to be at her birthday party and that his presence was important, so it was obvious that she thought I was less important. She then doubled down and told me that there was no need for me to stress myself out by staying even a minute longer. She even offered to call me an Uber, as if she couldn't wait to get me out of there. It was as if she believed I was interrupting her special day in some way, even though she had been the one who had initially insisted that I attend. She kept saying that I could just leave, which annoyed me so much that I finally asked her directly why she wanted me to leave so quickly. At that point, she broke down the facade and revealed to me exactly what I had suspected, that I was taking away the attention from her birthday party because of my pregnant belly. According to her, the only topic anyone could discuss at the party was the baby. Her words hurt because I hadn't come to her party to take anything away from her, but now that I'd shown my face to everyone, she felt that the right thing for me to do would be to leave so that she could enjoy the rest of her party without feeling like I was taking away the attention she deserved. This was supposed to be her day, and she made it clear that she had only wanted me here so that people wouldn't question her about my absence. She was practically pushing me out the door because she felt threatened by the excitement people were showing over the baby and overwhelmed by what had just happened with her mother-in-law and her friends. If my presence was ruining her day, it was frustrating and hurtful to hear her say those things. I turned around and decided I needed to find my husband, Nate. Right away when I saw him across the room chatting with some guests, I went over when I got to him. He was as shocked as I was when I told him that my mother-in-law had made it clear that she wanted me to leave. He asked if there had been anything between us that had caused her to act in this way, so I told him everything, that she had been making inappropriate comments about my appearance and that she had attempted to embarrass me in front of her friends, but that it had backfired on her. Nate looked upset as I told him the story, and he said he would go talk to her and resolve it. I wasn't sure. I told my husband that I wanted to leave because I was getting tired of his mother's behavior, but Nate persuaded me to stay for an hour longer and promised to drive me home, so I reluctantly agreed. A little while later, as I was trying to enjoy the rest of the party, this is what he and his mother talked about. He returned and told me that his mother was just having one of her moods and that I shouldn't take it seriously. My mother-in-law came up to me again with a plate of cake, but this time she was a little more reserved than usual. To my surprise, she told me that she felt bad about how she had spoken to me earlier and that she had had too many drinks, which had affected her judgment. She offered me the cake as a peace offering, saying it was her way of letting go of the tension between us. I simply smiled politely, thanked her, and took a bite of the cake at first. I found nothing wrong with the cake, but after a few minutes, a strange feeling started to creep in. It started as a slight discomfort, but it quickly got worse. I felt like my throat was getting tighter, almost like it was closing up slowly, and I was having trouble breathing. At first, I thought maybe I had swallowed something, so I put the plate down and started fanning my chest to get rid of whatever I thought might be stuck. Robin also looked worried. I was on my knees, clutching my stomach in terror, and all I could think about was my baby. I was scared not only for myself, but also for my unborn child. I didn't care what happened to me. I just needed my baby to be okay. Amid the panic, I saw Nate running towards me, his face filled with fear, but everything after that became a blur. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed and felt confused about everything. I saw Nate sitting next to me, and although he seemed relieved to see me awake, I could tell he was feeling guilty because we had been together for a long time. Before I even asked him what had happened, he explained that I had fainted and that he had rushed me to the hospital. He assured me that the baby and I would be okay, but he didn't say anything else. I started to piece together what had happened when the doctor came to talk to me. He explained that I had probably been poisoned, which caused my body to react in this way. I couldn't comprehend it. The doctor asked me what I had eaten before the incident, and that's when I remembered the cake my mother-in-law had given me. I told him about it, and he told me that it might have contained soy, a food to which I am extremely allergic. All of my family members were shocked. Since my husband's family is aware of my soy allergy, I'm fairly certain that the cake at my mother-in-law's party didn't contain soy because I had already eaten a piece of it before she offered it to me. However, the doctor now said that the cake probably did contain soy, which is what caused the severe allergic reaction. I was shocked, perplexed, and genuinely afraid of how this could have happened. I turned to face my husband, Nate, who had been silent the entire time. The doctor excused himself to give us some privacy, so I used that time to ask the question that had been bothering me since I woke up. Did the cake contain soy? I pressed because I needed to know for sure. Nate hesitated, his eyes darting away from mine as if he was hesitant to answer, but I could tell he was holding back, so I pushed him to open up. After a moment of silence, he finally confessed, and when he saw me collapse, he hurried to find out what had happened. When he confronted his mother about it, she tearfully admitted that she had added a few drops of soy milk to the cake before giving it to me because she wanted me to feel a little ill so that I would just go home and the guests would stop talking about me and my baby at her party. I was shocked to hear that his mother-in-law had given me the cake I was eating. His voice trembled a little as he described the confrontation. When I realized that she had purposefully put me in danger to get me to leave her celebration, I was rendered speechless. My emotions boiled over, and I threatened to take legal action against his mother for endangering me and putting me in a situation where I might have lost my child. I felt justified in my anger, but Nate persuaded me not to do so, telling me that even as I write this, he continues to say, "You have to think this through before taking such a serious step and reporting my mom." His words feel like a slap in the face, and I find it hard to understand how he could defend her actions in any way. He insists that this is a family matter and that we should resolve it without involving the police because he knew that what his mother did was wrong. My parents, who live in a different city, decided to fly in to stay with me while I recovered at home after everything that had happened. They were understandably upset and very concerned after hearing about the incident, and as soon as they learned the details, they wanted me to go straight to the police station and file a complaint against my mother-in-law. I feel like we did just that. I reported my mother-in-law for what she did to me. I was relieved that we had finally taken action, but when Nate learned what we had done, he became extremely upset. It was like a switch had flipped in him, and he began telling me and my parents that we shouldn't have made such a drastic decision without first speaking to him. He insisted that his mother didn't mean any harm to me, and he started to remind me of all the times his mother-in-law had supposedly helped me, which seemed completely absurd considering how rarely she visited or had provided any genuine support during my pregnancy. My mother, who had been trying to maintain her composure, told him firmly that as my husband, he should develop a backbone and defend me and our unborn child, rather than appeasing his mother and attempting to shield her when what she did to me was illegal. My dad also added, "Nate, your mother chose to put my pregnant daughter at serious risk. Instead of standing here arguing about your family, you should be more worried about your wife and your unborn child. What if your mother felt threatened by people discussing your wife's pregnancy, which is why she invited her in the first place?" Their words hit home, and I could see how embarrassed Nate was at the time. He tried to argue further, but my parents wouldn't have it, insisting that my health and the safety of our unborn child came first. I am so appreciative of my parents' support, and I need my husband to understand now. Update 2. I forgot to mention this in my previous update, but yes, my mother-in-law has called me to apologize several times since the incident, and each time I have ignored her. I'm not ready to accept her apology. This is about the safety and well-being of our expanding family, not just about a birthday party gone wrong. What if his mother hurts our child tomorrow because she is once more envious of us? I'm really upset to hear my husband say that he seems more concerned about his mother's feelings than my health and safety. Nate has been sulking around the house and refusing to talk to me, saying that I'm being overly dramatic for making his mother feel bad and guilty after her numerous apologies. He told me that I should try to be a better daughter-in-law by letting this matter slide for the sake of his family. A month and a half has passed since my last update, and thanks to everyone's advice, I have filed for divorce from my husband because our relationship keeps getting worse. As you can see, after I filed my police complaint, my mother-in-law was arrested because the evidence against her was so strong. Several witnesses, including Robin, confirmed that she had given me the cake, and when questioned, she also admitted to mixing it. Nate's family has continued to blame me for putting my poor mother-in-law through such a difficult time. Rather than supporting me during such a traumatic event, they are choosing to sympathize with the person who knowingly endangered my life and the life of our child. She put soy into my cake so that she could purposefully make me sick. As a result, she was charged with endangerment and purposefully causing bodily harm to both me and my baby. There was no assurance that his mother or his family wouldn't show up and cause me more trouble, especially given the volatile nature of the situation. But when Nate learned about my plans to leave him and move back in with my parents, I made the difficult decision that I needed to return home with them, where I would feel much safer. My husband's refusal to support me has been especially painful, so I feel like divorcing him is the only option left. To answer some of your questions, Nate has always had a quick temper like his mother, but since the incident, his frustration has only gotten worse towards me. When he was already losing his mother, he accused me of making things worse by taking his baby away from him. He became verbally aggressive and went on a tirade about how I was ruining everything and that all I had to do was just stay silent and let the matter go so that we could put this to rest. My father-in-law has expressed regret to me for what his wife did, but like Nate, he feels that I betrayed them by calling the police. He told me that I could have simply discussed the situation with the family. My mother-in-law has always been prideful, but she has never put me in physical danger in this manner, so this is the first time that this has happened, but I don't want to give her another chance ever again. My mother-in-law will never be able to compensate for the emotional toll this incident has taken on me. Update 5. I suppose it has been a few months since my last update, and I have given birth, and both my baby and I are doing well. The divorce with my ex-husband was straightforward because of the prenuptial agreement we had in place, but he is still upset with me for what happened to his mother, and holds me solely responsible for her punishment. Aside from child support, he has made it clear that he does not want any involvement with our child, so I have been given full custody, and Nate has given up all parental rights. In addition, my ex-mother-in-law was sentenced to 8 months in prison and ordered to pay a hefty fine in addition to paying for all of my medical bills and therapy associated with the incident. I'd also have a restraining order against her that ensures I'm staying at my parents' house for the time being, where we're both safe and supported, and I feel relieved that I can raise my child in a secure setting. I'll stay here until I can find employment and move out on my own. That way, she can never come near me or my child again.